Alright, welcome back to Jackknife TV. So some of the clips you just seen there are of channels you know and channels you don't know, but what they all have in common is within the last year, they've all have basically come forward and said that they're either going out of business or that they're leaving trucking altogether. Alright, so that being said, as we know, the end of 2023 into 2024 has been, well, we'll just put it bluntly, has been hell for most guys. All right, they're losing their businesses, they're losing their houses. Some of them are homeless, as you can see in some of the clips. One of them actually stated that they were homeless. It's bad all the way around. All right, this market has changed so fast and so great that a lot of carriers just simply have not been able to keep up. With maybe either adapting their business or adapting their expenses. All right, so the big thing that I don't see a lot of guys doing is just knowing their numbers, just simply putting them down on paper, putting them in an app, doing a spreadsheet, maybe even having some sort of budgeting software. Guys do not know how much it costs them to run. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to try to actually help, or some way at least show my numbers, or what they would be if I was an owner operator with my own authority or whatnot, and just try to dive really deep down into cost. Now you also got to remember, not on top of your business costs and expenses and whatnot, you also have your home expenses that you have to also take care of. Happy wife, happy life. Things like that. And so these costs I'm going to show you technically are in addition to, or well, your home expenses will be in addition to these costs. So I'm going to go and we're going to screen mirror right now the phone, because I got a neat little app. It's called Simple Tracker. It's in the Google Play Store. I'll try to put a link down below, and you just pretty much fill it out. Go down, write down each expense. It's basically a paper version of writing down your expenses and your profits or whatnot. It'll also keep track of them weekly or monthly. We can also go in and you can change the parameters yourself. But it was just a real quick little app that I found that helped me on the road, so I didn't have to break open a laptop and look at a spreadsheet or whatnot. It's just a quick reference, I would say. It's not end all be all financial tool by no means, but at least it'll help you keep track of your numbers and what you need to run to make money. So when you're booking that load, you could easily just look over or glance at this app before you go to book the load and be like, well, if I run 2,500 miles this week, my costs are going to be $1.73 a mile. If I run 1,000 miles this week, my costs are going to be $4.33 a mile. So that's going to be your benchmark number that you're going to need to get, from a brokered load well, at the end of the week, I guess you could say, to basically break even. Okay, so we're going to dive into this, and I'm going to screen mirror the phone, and we're going to show you a little bit of this app. We're simply just going to go into the spending tracker app, and here we are on one of the main pages. Now we're just going to go to transactions. Let me change this over to the main page. And this is all the costs I would have if I had my authority. So we're just going to go down the list here real quick. So the first biggest cost, obviously, is fuel, which these are weekly costs based on a 2,500 mile week, as you can see right up here. We basically have $1.73 a mile cost. All right. Now, that being said, if we go over here, there's our fuel cost, our truck payment, our insurance payment, maintenance and repairs, and so on and so forth. Now, like I said, I've gone through simply in a calculator and calculated these costs out weekly, and these are what the costs come out to. So, obviously at the bottom here is our total number. And what this app will do is, it's basically a budgeting app, okay? It's basically you are budgeting your expenses for your business. And let me get up out of here real quick so I'm not writing all over the screen. And as you go through, since as of right now, I'm a reefer driver. You'll see that some of my costs per se are, well, one is reefer fuel right there. And if we go down all the way down the list, you'll see that we have some miscellaneous expenses. Those are just expenses that maybe you forget about during the week. You have your IRP plates, whether it's truck or trailer. And a lot of this are costs, at least for me, these are costs that I pay a service to perform for me. A lot of these you can do yourself, maybe for cheaper, but you know, once you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, these are my costs. You have a cell phone. Let's see, if you have your own authority and you're an owner-operator and you're trying to run a legitimate business, you're going to have to pay for a Google email.com, you know, an email.com address, and preferably some kind of website. So as you can see at the bottom here, these are some additional costs that I have. Also, banking and software fees. I have an app that's called Found Business that helps me out with my taxes and everything else. It pretty much keeps track of every transaction I make on that debit card for that bank. All right. So you also have load board expenses. Now, if you think about it, if you have every single load board, or just about it, most of the bigger load boards, Truck Stop, DAT, 123 load board, you have Truck Smarter, which is also free. You're going to be paying in upwards of $300 a month for some of these load boards. You have to keep track of all this. Here's one that a lot of guys don't do. Groceries. I actually shop, which actually saves me money. If you think about it on a given day, if you eat at a fast food restaurant 2 or 3 times a day, you're spending, let's see, 10, 20, 30, about $30 or $40 a day maybe, especially if you end up stopping at an iron skillet or whatnot and having a $40 or $50 dinner. It's just, you know, costs add up. So all that's tracked right within my expenses here. Let me try to get rid of this and quit writing on the screen again. Let's actually pull up some of these expenses. So as you can see, you can go right in here and you can add your expenses. You can also repeat your expenses monthly, weekly, and so on and so forth. We're going to try to go into transactions here. I also can add notes. So this is my truck payment. All right, I have it broke down into a weekly amount. That way, when I have to pay it at the end of the month, I know that if I didn't make at least $1,025, that I'm going to be short and have to pull from my savings to pay my truck payment. Same thing here. Here's some costs that people don't think about. Tolls. I average my tolls out for a month. Sometimes they can be right around $1,000 as of right now. Sometimes they can be around $1,400 due to the fact that I run in the Northeast. A lot of GW Bridge, Throgs Neck, Pennsylvania Turnpike, New Jersey Turnpike, things like that. Also have my mileage averaged out to 8 miles a gallon. Now I do get better than that, but it's always a good idea when you plan your costs to plan worst case scenarios. It's always better to have more money left over than less money left over at the end of the week, month, so on and so forth. We have our insurance payment, which right now is just pretty much fictitious since I don't actually have my authority. Now, like I said, these are all based on my authority numbers. So as you can see, at 2,500 miles right here at the top, at 2,500 mile week, we have an average cost of $1.73 a mile. So that's what I have to make at the end of the week after a 2,500 mile week, which is about 500 miles a day. That is what I need that number to break even. So if I'm quoting brokers a rate, I have to be over that rate. So if I want to profit myself, that means I have to add an additional, we'll say 80 cents to a mile to that number to be able to profit myself, to be able to break more than even. All right, I know I'm really good at this. Per se, I haven't had a lot of time messing around with screen mirroring on here, so I apologize for that right off the bat. But I need to at least put something out there to help someone. Most of my content here lately has been slightly doom and gloom, and the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of channels showing, you know, interesting videos about trucking and talking and whatnot about this, you know, about knowing your numbers. But what this app will do is help you sit down and show you what your numbers are. You know, you'll go through them individually, line item by line item. And let me pop that down so I can actually scroll down. And some of these costs you might not have. All right. So if you're like leased to a carrier, you're not going to have these costs. But what you do have to remember if you're leased to a carrier is you're going to have to remember to add an extra 25, 30, 40%, depending if you have some other costs, involved in there when you're leasing to a carrier. You're going to have to add that into your costs here on this app. So basically, let's say I was leased to a carrier, and let's say I didn't have this insurance breakdown and whatnot. These costs I would also have to add an additional at the end of the total, an additional 25, 35%, depending on the carrier you're leased to. All right, if that makes sense. I'm sorry, it's about 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to do this, so I'm just going to be completely real and honest with you. Now, another thing what I've also done real quick, so I've also gone to categories, and I've also added different categories. So let's say we run a 1,000-mile week. All right, so we're going to back out of here. We're going to go to transactions. We're going to pull up our categories. We're going to switch over to a 1,000-mile week. As of right now, let's say I plan on maybe not running a lot this week. Maybe I'm going to take off at the end of the week, and I'm only going to run 1,000 miles. That is my cost. If I had my authority and I only ran 1,000 miles, that is my break-even cost per mile right there. It's $4.33 a mile. So I would have to be charging $5 plus a mile to be able to profit, or at least pay myself at the end of the week. So as you can see, the lower the miles you run, the harder it gets when you have such high insurance costs, such high truck costs, and so on and so forth. So I was quoted this year for insurance. Of course, Progressive's the only one which will touch me. The most, like most new entries, or entrants I should say, I was quoted about $23,000 for insurance for the year, which is way up. Pre-pandemic, when I had my authority, I was paying about $12,900, about $13,000 a truck. Yeah, so that's a huge increase from pre-pandemic here. So, like I said, it all comes down to knowing your numbers. The small costs will catch up to you. The cell phone bills, the ELD costs, some of the banking costs, fees and whatnot, transaction fees, your transaction fees on your fuel card or whatnot. These are all costs which will catch up to you and pile up week after week. And these are the costs guys don't think of. These are the costs that can add up to, you're talking about $50, $100 worth of savings a week. An extra $400 in your pocket might make or break you sometimes with the way things are. It might mean either pulling out of your savings or not pulling out of your savings for the end of the week or end of the month. Some guys, it might mean whether or not they're going to eat for the week or the day. It's sad to say that, but whether you're an owner operator or you're just a regular company driver, some of you need to sit down and swallow your pride and maybe watch a few episodes of Dave Ramsey. All right, budget. Just quit living a frivolous lifestyle, I guess you could say. I know it's stressful when you look at the numbers. I know it gets scary, but until you tackle it, that's the only way you're going to find out whether or not you're going to make it. Until you take that first initial step, there's a lot more. Like I said, there's a lot more involved than just technically knowing your numbers. You're going to have a heart-to-heart talk with yourself, basically, and decide that I'm freaking tired of living settlement to settlement or paycheck to paycheck. And some of that, might mean having to make changes, whether changing carriers, changing companies, maybe going to get your authority, maybe deciding to hang up your authority. These are changes that you're going to have to sit down with yourself and maybe even your family members and figure out. So that being said, like, these are my somewhat personal opinions. I'm basically in the same boat. I may not be hurting as much as some guys. I may have a bit of a safety net, but there are weeks that I look at my numbers and they are rather large. All right. But then again, there are guys that are going out of business or leaving trucking altogether after, I'm not even going to say failing, but trying to make it. All right. Not failing, but trying to make it in this market right now. This market is extremely different compared to other markets. Nobody would have seen rates rates fall the way they have and costs become so inflated. It's like a perfect storm. All right. I do blame a few guys for buying, $4,000, $5,000 a month truck payments. All right. I'm one of them, to be honest, right now, but I am making it. So if I am making it, you with $1,000 a month truck payment should be able to make it. Even though I am on a dedicated carrier, I am not making boatloads of money. I do not have, I am not making $3 a mile. I also have huge costs. Huge costs. Now, I will say right now, I have also a little bit of a safety net. I don't pay for reefer fuel. I don't pay to rent a trailer. I get reimbursed for tolls. So right there knocks a lot of my additional costs down. All right. But still, I have a huge truck payment. I have huge personal expenses. I have debt left over from prior to COVID from a business that I had that I've been slowly trying to pay off. I do not want to go bankrupt. I don't want to do it. So what that means is I have huge payments to make. I have a lot to catch up on. I also owe taxes. I'll be first to admit it. All right, that too. That plays a big role into your finances too. Right now it's tax season. In fact, Monday is taxes. Taxes are due the 15th. Do your taxes. If not, right now, if you have not done your taxes, go talk to a CPA. Sorry, dispatcher called. And ask for an extension. All right? If you haven't not done your taxes as of yet, you need to have an extension in by the 15th. Get it with hold of your CPA or file an extension yourself if you can do that. It's worth it. Trust me. It is worth it. All right. The fees and fines add up. Now, that being said, I may have gotten a little too personal in my finances, but you know what? I try to put as much as I can out there. Right? I had some bad advice that I got when I was younger, when I first became an owner-operator, and it slowly began catching up to me. That and the pandemic, well, let's just say when you go from, well, I'm not going to put that information out there. All right. But when you go from profiting rather well, we'll just say upwards of $5,000 in additional to what I was making running a truck myself. You end up buying a lot, all right? You end up living above your means, per se. Maybe business-wise, I would say, you start using that money to expand quickly. And when you have a pretty much world shutdown, that hits you pretty hard. That hits your business pretty hard. That hits your employees pretty hard. And, well, I'm still digging out after the aftermath. I did not take huge loans or anything like that, like others. I pretty much quietly shut down and went into the sunset, if you could say that. So, before this turns into a personal video here, let me just end end this video by saying, if I can make it with my lackluster foresight, within, the dedicated carrier I'm in, I'm going to go ahead and say it, Tyson. All right, with the lackluster foresight of how the economy is, in my opinion, slowly going into a recession, or pretty much already is in a recession. You can make it. You can make it, but first you're going to have to take those initial steps and say to yourself, I am doing something wrong here. I need to know my numbers. And you know what? You might come to find out that there's no way you're going to dig yourself out of the hole you're in. And if you find yourself, in that situation, you're going to have to sit down and devise a plan to back out of the truck you're in, back out of the trailer you're in. You're going to have to do it cleanly. Don't just say, screw this, and abandon the truck, abandon the trailer. Talk to the banks right now. There are tons and tons and tons of repossessions. The Ritchie Brothers lots are full of repossessions right now. Talk to the banks. They will work with you, because the banks right now, they're holding the bag. All right, and that's why I say that maybe a really bad recession is coming. All right, I won't go farther into that. But talk to them. Don't ignore the phone calls. As soon as you devise a plan with the bank, you can breathe easy. Maybe they'll defer a few payments. They'll move them to the back of the loan, at least for you to catch up. Because like I said, these banks right now are holding the bag to all these trucks. That's why it's so hard to get credit for anything else right now. So, that being said, this is Jackknife TV. I'm trying here. I'd really, I wish I could do more. I wish I had something better to say to try to point you in a better direction, to give you some hope. There is hope to be had. It's just you're going to have to work for it. You're not going to be you sitting in the back of the bunk watching TV while you have bills piling up and late fees and notices coming in isn't going to help you. All right. So like I said, this is Jackknife TV, and I'm out.